Oh, hi, good evening. I didn't see you there. Welcome to my house. Mr. Roach here with a nice little fireside chat for you. And what are we going to be learning about tonight? We're going to be learning about communism in China. How exciting. Now, before you watch this little video, you should have already watched or looked at the PowerPoint and also filled in your guided notes. And if you haven't done that, hit pause right now and then come back. If you already have done that, you might want to have your notes in front of you, and with the pen and pencil so that you can add in anything else you'd like to on the notes. So let's get started with communism. Can you remind me again, what is communism? Oh yeah, that all people in a country are equal with goods and services so that there's nobody who's rich, but also there's nobody who's poor. Everybody is supposed to be, in theory, the same. And we didn't go over this in class, but the first country to have communism was Russia. But they weren't called Russia, they were called the Soviet Union back then. See, here's how it works. In the middle of the 1800s, this guy named Karl Marx came up with the idea of communism. And about 70 years later, this Russian guy named Vladimir Lenin, well, he took that idea of communism into Russia. There was a big civil war, and the communists won. And when he won the civil war, he introduced communism to the whole country. He even changed the name of the country from Russia to the Soviet Union. Now, I need some help with my geography here. What country is located directly south of Russia? And it's not Mongolia. That's right. If you said China, you are absolutely correct. Now see, the Russians really influenced China and kind of helped them bring communism to their country. Well, that leads to the question, how did communism in China start? It all started with this guy who's super famous. His name is Mao Zedong. And Mao was a really poor peasant farmer, and he created this big army, this army of communist peasants. And where do you think Mao got his influence again? Who influenced him? Did you say Vladimir Lenin? You're absolutely correct. So Mr. Lenin influenced Mao. Mao came back to China, started this, gathering support, and not everybody in China liked his communist ideas. See, there was two big forces, and from the PowerPoint, you already know this. There was the communists with Mao Zedong, and then there was the nationalists with the guy named Chiang Kai-shek. And they had a really big civil war. And it was in the early 1930s. And they're fighting, and they're fighting, and they're fighting. And then they kind of got interrupted by another country who came and invaded China. And that was Japan during World War II. And it's kind of like when two kids are fighting. You have a brother and sister who are fighting, and mom and dad come in the room, and then they stop fighting. And as soon as Japan left China, well, what do you think the communists and the nationalists started doing again? Well, of course, they started fighting up again. And during the second part of the Civil War, Chiang Kai-shek had a whole lot of support from the United States. The United States was giving Chiang Kai-shek tons of money and military advisors and guns and planes and bombs, all kinds of stuff to win the war. Now, why do you think that the United States supported the nationalists but not the communists? If you said that democracy and communism hate each other, you're correct, because those two governments hate each other. Think about today. You have the United States and North Korea, don't get along. You have the United States and Cuba, don't get along. Democracy and communism just doesn't get along. So the United States tried to support Chiang. But see, Chiang Kai-shek was really not a good guy. I mean, all those millions of dollars that the United States gave, he put it in his own pocket, his own bank account. All those guns that they gave him, he put them in a big warehouse and locked them up. Why didn't he give them to his troops? Because Chiang Kai-shek was such a bad leader, he thought so many of his own troops hated him that if he gave them the good guns, they would turn around and use them against him. And so because Chiang was a bad leader, when he lost the war to Mao Zedong, he took all of China's heritage. He looted all the museums and took all that money from the United States, and he took it to an island called Taiwan. And Taiwan today is its own country, and China mainland is its own country. And Mao Zedong stayed in China mainland, and he tried to make the entire country of China communist. And he tried to do that during a program called the Great Leap Forward. And that was supposed to kickstart China and, make it communism. Well, what is the Great Leap Forward? How did that happen? Well, if you want to know, you need to come to class next time and find out, because we're going to do a simulation of what it was like to live in China in the 1950s and 60s under communism. So please come to class and be ready to listen and have your homework done, and it's going to be fantastic. And thank you very much for stepping into my living room tonight. I'll see you next class.